Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel which is Certified Business Analysis Professional. My name is Varun Pawar and I hope you are liking my videos and finding those videos beneficial for your ECBA, CCBA and CBAP certification exam. So far we have since we were on requirement analysis and design definition knowledge area, and we have done the first two activities, which is specify and model requirement, verify requirement, and today we will do validation of the requirements. And I hope you are familiar with this table. So today we will do validate requirement, but before that, this is very important for you to understand. Uh, from specify and model requirement, we were getting the output which is requirement specified and modeled, and you can see that requirement is specified and model. This output is the input for both these two activities. uh, but the question could arise, like, why validate of the requirement did not happen earlier than verify requirement. So understand in that way that verification requirement is the internal process where the business analyst along with the testing team or with the development team verify and do the business acceptance testing of the requirements and the designs. Once that is done, then it happens with the customer, that we generally say that user acceptance testing, and we user verify validate those requirements against the acceptance criteria or the business need. So why didn't that is one of the reason. So in other way we can say that verification and validation of the requirements can start parallelly, but verification validation of the requirement does not complete unless verification of requirement completed. So verification of requirement need to be completed first, means my sign off should be there first as acceptance of the business, and then the user will do a sign off as a user acceptance. So that is very important you to remember. The same thing I will discuss in a next slide. So from verify requirement we get the requirement verified, and from validate requirement we get the requirements validated. Now, what are the objectives? Validation is an ongoing process. So it's ongoing process to ensure that stakeholders, solution and transition requirements align to the business requirements and that the design satisfy the requirements. The overall goal of implementing the requirement is to achieve the stakeholders' desired future state. So here on in the first line, validation is an ongoing process. It says like, even if the requirement has been released, we have officially gotten sign off from the user, but still when the customer and the end user is working on those applications, uh, if they find any issue during that period of time, they can report it back to the support team, and the support team will, or a help desk would be fixing those issues because those are impacting the business, right? So ongoing process means the end user and the customer is always there too, because they are end product we are delivering to the users and they are working on that product. So that's ongoing process. And to ensure that stakeholder solution and transition requirement, I hope you understand what are the stakeholders requirements, solution requirements. Stakeholder requirements are those that are coming from the directly from the stakeholders as a need. Solution requirements are the functional and non-functional requirements. Transition are the temporary requirements which need just for once before you transition to the future state, and business requirements are the major goals and the objective. So all these first three requirements finally translate to the business requirement. The overall goal of implementing the requirement is to achieve the stakeholder desired future state. In many cases, stakeholders have different conflicting needs and expectations that may be exposed through the validation process. So during the validation, suppose you are developing a banking application and transfer funds um is not in the scope of that application, that development. So during the validation, there might be that the assumption of the user is that that scope or that feature would be covered in this development. But then and there you can say, oh, boss, that's not part of the scope. So we have to exclude that. So if validation is done and later on when you have handed over the application for the end user to start working on that, and they identified, oh, this feature is not that part of this release, so that could create problems. So during the validation itself, few gaps could be identified, might be understanding issue at the user's end. So you can then and there clarify all those things. So validation is very important from that part. So this is a input output for the validation of the requirement. So requirement is specified and model. Any type of requirement and design is basically a solution design, can be validated. Validation may begin before requirements are completely verified. However, validation activities cannot be completed before requirements are completely verified. This line you have to remember, because anything could be an exam out of these lines. Then ensure the first and other inputs is guideline and tools. Business objective, it is to ensure that a requirement deliver the desired business benefits. Then future state description, it helps to ensure the requirements that are part of the solution scope do help achieve the desired future state. Potential value, used as a benchmark against which the value delivered by the requirements can be assessed. So this is like once you are in a future state, or you have handed over the application to the end users and they are working on started operating that application, then you this during that period of time, uh, you might have already set up some benchmark against which the value delivered by the requirement can be assessed, and that defines the potential value. Solution scope, ensure the requirements that provides benefits are within the scope of the desired solution. So when we are saying solution scope, so there are few things or few requirements or design that we collectively lined up, aligned to a particular release, and that is a part of the solution scope. If any of the requirements that is not aligned with the solution scope, either could be removed or altogether we have to change the solution scope. Requirements validated. So can be requirements and design validation can be demonstrated to or deliver benefits to stakeholders and align with the business goals and objective of the change. If a requirements or design cannot be validated, remember this is important line. If a requirements or a design cannot be validated, it either does not benefit the organization, does not fall within the solution scope, or it could be both. So what are the elements? First is identify assumption. So you might relate this now. So stakeholders may have assumed that certain benefits will result from the implementation of a requirement. These assumptions are identified and defined so that associated risk can be managed. It could happens like just by the assumption is user is expecting that this would also be provided a part of this release, but uh, before user say, you could put it as a risk that user could ask for this. Define measurable evaluation criteria. The business analysts define the evaluation criteria that will be used to evaluate how successful the change has been after the solution is implemented. Baseline metrics might be established based on the current state. Target metrics can be developed to reflect the achievement of the business objective or some other measurement of success. So the business analyst, in order to measure the evaluation of that desired future state, based on the current state, he sets some baselines there, baseline metrics and the KPIs, you know about that. So business analysts set those metrics and the KPIs initially, and it could like once the you are in a future state, and the user starting operating that. Then also he could put some target KPIs on matrices against which he can measure that how much deviation is there from what is expected, what is actual, right, and what is targeted. Evaluate alignment with the solution scope. A requirement could be of a benefit to stakeholder and still not be desirable part of a solution. Many times it happens like stakeholders give their own need that okay, I want this particular requirement to be part of this, but that requirement altogether is not part of the solution scope, and that is not aligned. So it could be possible that it's important from stakeholder point of view, but from the solution it's not important. So such requirements could or could not be part of the solution scope. It depends upon the negotiating power of the business analyst. The requirement that does not deliver benefit to stakeholder is a strong candidate for the elimination. And obviously, if any of the requirement which is not benefit giving benefit to any stakeholders, it's obviously part of elimination. When requirements do not align, either the future state must be reevaluated and the solution scope changed, or the requirements removed from the solution scope. As you said, like this line is also important. When any of the requirement is not aligned with the solution scope, right, either you remove that one or you change either the future state must be re-evaluated, that what could be the future state, and in that sense solution scope could be changed. So if somebody says solution scope could not change, solution scope could be changed, but it is very subjective to the requirements, whether we have based on the requirement we have to realign or not. If a design cannot be validated to support a requirement, there might be a missing or misunderstood requirement, or the design must be changed. Then who are the stakeholders who participate in the validation of the requirement? All stakeholders part of business analyst in conjunction with the customer and users and the sponsor has the primary responsibility for determining whether or not requirements are validated. Other stakeholders may discover problematic requirements during requirement communication. Therefore, virtually all project stakeholders are involved in this task. Now, what are the techniques? Well, acceptance and evaluation criteria, as it is always part of the business acceptance testing, user acceptance testing. So acceptance and evaluation criteria will always be part of that, used to define the quality metrics that must be met to achieve acceptance by the stakeholders. Then we have document analysis to identify previously documented business needs in order to validate requirement. Financial analysis to define the financial benefits associated with the requirements. Then we have item tracking. It is used to ensure that any problem or issues identified during validation are managed and resolved. Metrics and key performance indicators, which generally known as KPIs, used to select appropriate performance measures for a solution components or requirement. Then we have reviews used to confirm whether or not the stakeholders agrees that their needs are met. Risk analysis and management used to identify possible scenarios that would alter the benefit delivered by a requirement. Moreover, on those techniques, we would get a separate, one-to-one videos on each technique where we will understand it in detail. So that's it from validation requirement. That was very quick, and I hope you are liking my sessions. So please do subscribe to my channel so that whenever I'm uploading any new topic or any new activity on any new knowledge area, you would be the first to receiving it. So till then, I update or create a new video. Take care and goodbye.